Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're not just, looking at source material. We're actually entering a world.
A single smothering world.
Exactly. One defined by this suffocating total control. It's a global city, hyper-efficient, and just.
Yeah.
Entirely gray.
And we're diving into the text, the absolute response, or VIRIDITAS REBOUND.
Right, which documents the city's sudden, really violent ecological transformation. It's this green reversal that just rewrites the rules of reality itself.
And you have to understand, this city wasn't a collection of cities.
No.
It was the only structure left on the planet after the consolidation of 51. A single engineered monolith built for stasis.
So our mission today is to really unpack the philosophical engine that drove this whole thing and understand why everything they built failed so spectacularly.
And that failure, it really begins with their core belief system. They called it compression.
Compression.
Yeah. This world was built on the ideal of perfect stasis. The highest goal was stability. And their whole dogma was something called documentation.
Which means
that if you have perfectly documented something down to the absolute micron,
okay,
you no longer need to experience it.
Yeah.
If the archive is complete, the future becomes redundant.
They were literally archiving life instead of living it.
Exactly, just reducing the entire human experience to a footnote. This compression created this overwhelming pressure that just kept all vitality crushed down.
So that's the mission, to unpack that secret life, the vital force they tried to bury, and see what the greening reveals about consciousness and, the futility of perfect control.
Let's start with the physical reality.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
If you try to picture the city, you see pure geometry. Everything is a perfect cube. Mandated perfect cubes, repeating endlessly. And the color,
Yeah.
Everything is Pantone 877C, metallic silver.
After the color wars of 61, they were trying to build a crystal palace, a perfect rational society where color, any kind of variation, was basically banned.
It's just such an intense level of sensory deprivation. Metallic silver isn't, a calming color.
Yeah. No, it's a non-color.
Mm.
It's reflective, but cold. It's all about efficiency, not comfort. They thought if everything looked the same, then everything was the same. No intervention needed.
But the real control mechanism, it wasn't visual, it was something you felt. The source talks about this terrifying invention,
Yeah.
the 47 hertz hum. Walk us through that.
It was so much more than noise. It was the city's engineered baseline frequency,
Engineered.
constantly maintained by these huge things called resonators in the sub-basement of every single sector.
And 47 hertz is what, subsonic?
For most people, yeah. The source says you didn't hear it, you felt it, like a constant pressure behind your sternum, like a mild panic attack you just got used to.
So it's almost a kind of infrastructural intimidation.
In a way, but they defined it as a form of urban meditation.
Meditation.
It was the sound of the system holding itself in a state of non-emergence, keeping everything dormant. Imagine a pond where the water is constantly agitated just enough to keep the surface flat so nothing can ever grow.
That sounds absolutely exhausting to live through. And we see the breaking point through one person's eyes, right?
Elena, a frequency tuner, her job was to listen to this exact frequency for, what was it?
96,360 hours. She was the ultimate sensor for stasis.
And the moment everything breaks, it's 3:47 a.m., the dead hour. The failure of control happens when everyone is supposed to be asleep.
And this is where it gets so tense. She doesn't hear an explosion. She feels this tiny deviation. The frequency shifts from 47.0 hertz to 47.3.
It's just 0.3, and that tiny fraction is everything. It's described not as a loud noise, but as a scream muffled by a pillow.
Wow.
You know the scream is happening, but the suppression makes it even more terrifying.
A repressed scream that changes reality. So is this an accident? Or
The archive records say no. They hit a deeply classified critical threshold, 47.2 hertz.
critical resonance?
Critical resonance.
Yeah.
The point where the accumulated memory of the substrate, the concrete, the foundations, becomes active, not archived.
Wait, I have to pause on that. The concrete had memory. We're not talking about paper archives. The actual stuff of the city could remember.
Think of it like a hard drive. For decades, the city compressed everything. All that human emotion, the buried forest, all that energy was pressed into the material itself.
Okay.
When the frequency hit 47.3, that pressure was released. The molecules started vibrating just a little too fast, and the material woke up.
And just as this is happening, Elena and her supervisor, Mikhail, find something buried 17 layers deep in an archive.
The VIRIDITAS protocol.
The smoking gun.
Absolutely. The warning is just so stark. If the substrate achieves critical resonance, Do not attempt suppression. The greening cannot be stopped, only channeled.
They knew. They built the city on a biological time bomb.
And the moment they read that, the choice is made for them. Amplify it. Channel the cascade.
So what does that look like? The source calls the first manifestation memory as tissue.
It's incredible. The walls literally start sweating this luminous green fluid. And patterns emerge that look like veins or neural networks.
Or root systems.
Exactly. The city isn't just malfunctioning, it's remembering. All that repressed history is erupting and turning into actual biomass.
Horrifyingly beautiful. Which brings us to the force behind all of it.
VIRIDITAS.
VIRIDITAS.
Yeah, it's an old Latin term. It means greening power or vital life force. It's the biological yes that pushes up through the concrete.
The life force of the ancient forest the city was built on.
A forest that was never really dead, just sleeping, held captive by that hum. The frequency shift was the alarm clock, and what followed was the VIRIDITAS cascade.
Okay, so let's shift from the mechanics to the philosophical explosion. The hum stops. Absolute silence.
Yeah.
And then the city screams.
A scream of green light pouring out of everything, followed by these massive pulsing roots. And this whole combustion phase, this manic growth, it lasts for exactly 47 days.
The number again?
The sheer speed suggests it wasn't random, it was angry, directed. And to understand the philosophy, the source points us to Dostoevsky.
The underground man.
The ultimate rebel, exactly. The city tried to turn humans into piano keys. Totally predictable. The greening is the ultimate expression of the underground man's rebellion, just on an ecological scale.
The fierce insistence on being irrational.
On choosing chaos over optimization, even if it's uncomfortable.
So our spite, our refusal to be predictable, that becomes an ecological function.
It does. It defines the new core principle. Spiteful vitality.
Spiteful vitality.
The source calls it the biological fuck you that keeps replicating against entropy. It's a cellular refusal to accept limits. The city valued order. The new ecosystem values variation.
And humans are the chaos generators.
The mutation engines. The forest needs to ensure it never gets stuck in stasis again.
But if we're valued for our inefficiency, isn't that just trading one form of tyranny for another?
That's the tension, right? But the key difference is continuation over permanence. The city wanted permanence, which always implies a kind of death. The forest just wants to continue, and for that it needs complication.
And we are very, very complicated.
We're the grit in the oyster. And that complexity all converges at the center, Sector 1, the Blackstone Monument to Human Permanence.
And from underneath, it emerges the mother tree.
This is the huge twist. The tree is ancient, intelligent, and it can talk.
And what does it say?
It tells them the entire city, the grids, the archives, all of it, was just the forest's way of concentrating resources.
Yeah.
A giant, neurotic termite mound gathering energy for this exact moment of growth.
So our whole civilization was just an expensive compost pile.
The ultimate humbling and the emotional fallout from realizing that, from absorbing the forest's memory, is what the source calls the laughter tears gradient.
An emotion so complex it's both breakdown and breakthrough, agony and ecstasy.
It's the only possible response to realizing the full, terrible scale of the universe, that cosmic joke tragedy. It's a necessary emotional reset.
How else do you react? And the number 47 keeps haunting the narrative. 47 days of growth and an estimated 47 years for full ecosystem stabilization.
Right, and the source notes that sometimes patterns just are. Trying to rationalize everything is that old city way of thinking.
So in the aftermath, the exhaust phase, the rules of existence change. Elena realizes the curse of consciousness is the weight of witness.
The exhaustion of being the observer, watching yourself observe. You spend more energy maintaining the I than on experiencing the am.
And the counterforce to that is the gravity of grace.
If the self is exhausting, then release isn't death, it's relief. It's dissolution. You learn to periodically collapse the witness, realizing the I is just a useful fiction, a tool, not a constant state.
Which changes their language. If the self dissolves and reforms, what's left? The source defines the linguistic residue of consciousness as... The contraction. It's the grammatical representation of consciousness existing in the gap between being and becoming. It refuses to fully fuse, but it also refuses to stay separate. It's the gravel in the voice, the sound of a consciousness that stopped trying to make perfect sense of everything.
Exactly. The self as a process, not a structure. And this shift affects everything, especially knowledge. The archive, the city's religion of fact, literally becomes mulch.
And transforms into mushrooms.
The history books become food for fungus. An amazing visual metaphor. The new knowledge system is oral tradition. Stories have to be retold to stay alive. If knowledge doesn't change, it dies and becomes food.
The result of all this is a new world defined by what the source calls coherent wildness.
Structured chaos. An order that doesn't suppress the unpredictable. And humans are physically integrating. We see human photosynthesis. Mikhail's hair turns green. They're becoming human-shaped forest.
So the goal is no longer permanence.
No, it's continuation. The pattern persisting through constant, vigorous transformation.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? I think the core lesson here is that the city's mistake wasn't its efficiency, it was its belief that completion was even possible or desirable.
Life, this viriditas, is an absolute refusal to ever be finished.
And our contribution to that system, it's our inefficiency, our capacity for surprise.
Our stubborn insistence on complication. We're needed because we're hard to manage. The source says we are nature's way of fucking itself up in interesting ways.
Creating new possibilities just by being difficult. And if we can't find peace and resolution because resolution means stasis, we're left with one final, provocative thought from the source.
Adequate confusion.
Adequate confusion.
It's the peace of being okay with not knowing the final answer. Accepting that the universe is a cosmic joke tragedy and not demanding a tidy ending.
So the necessary state for continuation, for life to flourish, is to live in that tension. Between the laughter and the tears, between spite and acceptance.
You don't try to resolve the friction. You just learn to live in it.